Are the LA Clippers in a crisis situation? Another loss, this time at home to the Memphis Grizzlies, who had only won one game so far in the season. What is the solution? What went wrong? Did the Clippers find anything positive to take from this Sunday loss? Going to be talking about it all on today's Locked On Clippers.
Locked On Clippers, your daily Los Angeles Clippers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, sir. You are locking in with the Clips. Thank you for making Locked On Clippers the first listen of your day, your team every day. I'm your host, Darian Vaziri, born and raised in LA and going into my 19th season as a Clipper fan this fall. You can also follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Dime Dropper Pod and subscribe to my own YouTube channel, Dime Dropper, for even more LA Clipper content. A video of James Harden's first game at home as a Clipper will be on my channel on Monday. You can see what the arena was like, his reception when he was introduced, and the crunch time moments of what was an amazing game to watch for a neutral. A very frustrating defeat. The fourth consecutive with James Harden and 5 straight overall for the LA Clippers. And before this episode begins, it is brought to you by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the best daily fantasy entry app around, the largest daily fantasy sports platform in North America. You should make your picks on Prize Picks. Just got to go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA and use code LockedOnNBA for a first deposit match up to $100. Okay, Clipper Nation. The great Ralph Lawler used to say, fasten your seatbelts, we're going down to the wire here at Staples Center. Well, ladies and gentlemen, fasten your seatbelts. It's about to get real here on Locked On Clippers. I don't feel like saying over and over again that I was right because it's still very early. But also, I don't need to say that to you because most of the Locked On listeners in the comment section, I want to say a good 70% of them, were anti-making this trade. And right now, there is no way you can say that it's a good one. I know there's still a lot of time left. There's still plenty of time left. But from a basketball perspective, and I want to keep emphasizing, a lot of people thought it was just me not being a huge fan of James Harden's game. But I want to reemphasize, if the Clippers didn't have Westbrook, I would have no problem with bringing on James Harden. But it's very evident that James Harden having the ball in the half court doesn't make Westbrook better at all. It makes him worse. It makes him open for threes more, which he's not great at, and you really don't want him taking that many, and the defense is going to live with it all day. You already had 2 non-spacers, per se, non-shooting threats, in terms of how the defense is going to treat them in Zubac and Russ before the Harden trade, but having Harden on the ball more just makes Russ more off ball, which kind of brings him back to where he was with the Lakers, getting a bunch of open shots because the defense is loading up. And then if Harden and Zoo run pick and roll, what teams are doing right now is they've got their defender in drop coverage. When Zoo gets the ball, they rotate off of Russell Westbrook and then leave him open for that corner swing. He's open, and it's a miss. And Russell Westbrook's three-point percentage is no longer at 38%. Now he is shooting the ball at a, 33% from deep. But that's not even counting the stats from this game where he was 1 for 4. So that number is going to drop. So let's put it this way. We know that Russell Westbrook's three-point shooting is not why the Clippers brought him in. It is not why he has been successful as a member of this team. You want the ball in his hands, pushing the pace, getting the ball to Kawhi and Paul George for quick hitting offense in the half court, coming off of screens, you're in the mid post, and then being off ball a bit, but being used in creative ways as a screener, crashing the offensive glass if teams are sagging off too much. But it works because Kawhi and Paul George are also so good in the mid-range that even if they see, a body or two, if they're not fully committing and doubling, they can get a good look off and it's no problem. But not only does the offense look so bad right now with the take turn stuff, because that's really what it looks like. It's take turns offense, your turn to get a shot. And then one thing I've really noticed is the slow pace of the starting five when they're together to start each half in this game and to start a lot of these halves. They dribble too much. And look, in this game, we got the most dribbling from James Harden that we've gotten in any of the 4 games. It was overkill at times. So much so that there was one moment in the third quarter, and I was at the game, I almost lost it. When he held the ball late, passed up a floater with 2 on the shot clock, threw it out to Terrence for a terrible, tough 3. And I was like, that's just selfish. That's just, you got a step on your defender, shoot the floater. If you get blocked, you get blocked. But putting Terrence in that position to take a tough shot and hurt his percentage because you feel like you either might get blocked or your percentage is going to get hurt. I don't want people to confuse it as being too unselfish. That is a selfish decision. Take the shot. Because it's not a good pass. It's not a good pass. But anyway, then there's the defensive issues. I don't care how many steals he gets. James Harden does not help our defense, and you're seeing it. He's trying, but he doesn't help our defense. And then when Westbrook and Paul George are also being lazy, which in this game they had their moments in the first half where they were, there was a couple times Westbrook fell asleep on an offensive rebound that two Grizzlies got twice. I remember I was like, man, Russ, come on. And then Paul George several times lost off the ball, got scored on 2 or 3 times one-on-one. He did have some decent moments, especially in the runs that we made in the second quarter and the beginning of the fourth, where he was playing some really solid help defense and then solid moments of one-on-one defense. But Paul George, since the trade has been made, yeah, I know he's had to carry more of a defensive weight, but he's not been as sharp defensively. He's been getting lost off the ball and falling asleep, allowing guys to get offensive rebounds at times. And then Kawhi Leonard, I think his defense has been solid, but again, it's been a step down, and his closeouts have been very poor this season. I know he's being told to run guys off the line, but they're just straight up blowing by him when he closes out, like easily and getting shots. So that's an issue. And when you have James Harden instead of Terrence Mann or Robert Covington, who we had earlier in the season starting, you go from having this length and athleticism out there that feels like there's a body everywhere. They're racing out to the three-point line. There's passing windows that you think are open, but they're not. Guys are rotating and helping quicker than you would expect if you're the opposing team. And now it just looks like a slow old team that can't really get off the ground. That's food for the opposing team. And in this game, I was blessed to be featured on Grind City Media giving a preview of the Clippers on the Grizzlies channel. And I talked about how when I found out Bismack Biyombo was starting, that Jaren Jackson at the 4, even before we made the Harden trade, Jaren Jackson was going to be one of the people that I always said on this show that could give us problems because he is the build of a traditional 4. And there were problems in this game. They were killing us on the offensive glass. They were getting a lot of easy baskets. When we switched everything, and there was a lot of switching everything, 1 through 4 in the starting lineup, basically 1 through 5 unless Zubac was in the game. You saw a lot more Musa in this game, and I honestly think he looked better than PJ Tucker because he gives us a lot more defensively. He can really move his feet. He's a good offensive rebounder. And finally, PJ Tucker made 1 3, but I saw fans getting very frustrated with him in the game today. He just doesn't really have much left in the tank, to put it quite nicely. And speaking of not left in the tank, actually it has nothing to do with the tank, but as we expected, Bones Highland, as I mentioned in the last episode, his role now that Russell Westbrook and James Harden are properly being staggered is quite irrelevant. Ty Lue said after the game he didn't want to go back to being too small, so Bones Highland did not play in this game, and that sucks. But that was one of the reasons I was against the trade. It's because I really wanted to see Bones Highland develop in that backup point guard role. He was thriving. A lot of fans I talked to on Sunday were really disappointed about it because they were really starting to grow an affinity towards Bones and the energy that he brought to the team and in the building, and that was gone. Now, I want to give you some stats. The offense in the first quarter was awful. At the 7:41 mark, Musa and Norm came in for Russ and Zoo. And then PJ Tucker came in for PG at 5:48. So what you were starting to see is the beginning of the stagger that everybody wants. Russ playing with Paul George and Kawhi playing with James Harden. And it was the former OKC duo in Russ and Paul George that were the far superior duo in this game. And the Clippers trailed 33-20 after 1. I just want to read the points in the paint in this game. 48 for Memphis to 34 for the Clippers. The Clippers had 18 fast break points, but that's really not that much. When you look at the way they played, it was really slow. And one thing I noticed about when the Big Four's in the game, they should not be isolating one-on-one unless they have a mismatch. If they don't have a favorable matchup, they should absolutely look to move the ball. Because when you have that much talent, moving the ball does not hurt. I saw Paul George have two of the Big Four in the game. I think it was Harden and Kawhi. And he's going one-on-one against the Defensive Player of the Year. Move the ball, dude. Like I don't mind Paul George isolating, but that's not the one when you have better options out there. Second quarter, it was the Russ. I looked at the guy next to me, and I said, oh, this lineup's going to come back for us because they have defense in there and athleticism. Russ, Norm, Terrence, PG, and Zoo. They cut the game down from 33-20 to 36-32. Swarming defense, pushing the pace, Westbrook in the controls, Paul George starting to feel it and starting to look like bully Paul George again and not the guy getting bullied again. Then 40-39 was the score when James Harden came back in at 4 minutes and 34 seconds remaining in the first half. And at halftime, we were down 52-45 at the half. So we got outscored 13-5 in that last 4.5 minutes when Harden came back in the game. Again, it felt like our defense was worse. Harden's defense is not very good. He got, a couple of steals and one or two good defensive plays, but for the most part, he gets lost off the ball. He's behind getting over screens. He's just slow. Teams are going to attack him, and he doesn't offer much resistance in the point of attack. It's a big down. It's not like he's the worst defender in the world, but it's a big downgrade from what we had. And also, I was just waiting for that step back three to go in and get the crowd going. My section, section 207, had the beards, the fake beards, the Harden cutouts. Everybody was behind him. And we were just waiting for that step back, that big moment from him offensively, and it just didn't come. And as I mentioned, the pick and roll with Zubats. Zubats continues to be, he looked a little better at times contesting shots, but the best moments of the game for the Clippers were with Zubats on the bench. Again, Harden's giving him some good passes. He's not catching the ball. He's fumbling it. He's just not looking like he's playing with any confidence relative to what we saw last season. In this game, he played 23 minutes, which is not much considering we don't have Mason. 6 points, 6 rebounds, a turnover on 2 for 4 shooting. He was a -5. I thought he was a little better than Dallas, but that's not saying much. He's just not been good this season, and that's really hurting Harden because what you had with Capella was you had a lob threat. What you had with Embiid was you had a pick and pop threat. Zubats is neither. He's neither a lob threat or a pick and pop threat. And what you're seeing right now is Harden is struggling to have that connection with Zoo because Zoo hasn't been good. It was 79-64 when Russ and Paul George came in for James Harden and Norman Powell at the 120 mark of the third quarter. So it was a terrible third quarter, very similar to the first. The starting lineup just not good together, clunky and not good defensively. And then it was the lineup with PJ, PG, Norm, Terrence, and Russ that tied the game at 84. What did I find out in that stretch that made me realize that there's a way the Clippers can really, or should I say, I figured the formula. I found the formula that I think can work best for us. What was it? Going to be talking about that coming up. I got to tell you a little something about Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the best daily fantasy entry app around. With basketball season underway, you can now pick combo projections across football and basketball from the Specials League, a league created specifically for combo projections that includes 2 or more players from different sports or leagues. For example, you can take Patrick Mahomes plus Jason Tatum for passes completed plus 3-pointers made. On Monday, I am taking RJ Barrett more with points, rebounds, and assists because right now the line's at 25.5, and RJ's been playing really well this season, and they're playing the Celtics, and I think there's going to be a lot of eyeballs on that game. I think he gets at least 17 points, and he should get a combined 8 rebounds and assists, I think. So I would go with the more there on RJ Barrett. Where can you do this? All you got to do is go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA and use code LockedOnNBA for a first deposit match up to $100. That's prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA and use code LockedOnNBA for a first deposit match up to $100. All right. Let's talk a little bit more about how the end of this game went. So again, it was that Paul George, Terrence Mann, Russell Westbrook lineup that really sparked things for the Clippers, got the crowd back in it. It starts with the defensive intensity. You just see sharper rotations, better closeouts, or quicker closeouts, I should say. Guys scrambling better, more size to get rebounds, gang rebounding, more physicality when you have guys like Russ, Paul George, PJ Tucker, and Terrence out there together. And then you had Zubats in there, and that was a really solid lineup. But actually, it was PJ, PG, Norm, Terrence, and Russ that led the charge to tie the game at 84. And we finally saw Sixth Man of the Year Norman Powell from last year, or, Sixth Man of the Year candidate Norman Powell. He got going. He hit his open threes, a lot of them from the left wing, some really solid looks created in transition, and just with good ball movement. Paul George really started to get more aggressive and started drawing defenders. And then there was that huge tip from Terrence Mann on the glass to Norman Powell for the long two that went in. Kawhi, by the way, the Clippers trailed by as many as 15 in the game, 79-64. Kawhi Leonard came in when it was 89-84. Clippers were down with 6:01 left. And mind you, James Harden's on the bench for all of this. And I'm just like, our pace is so much better. Westbrook and Paul George are getting going. Our defense is better. We just look closer to the team that we were before we got Harden when he was on the bench. And I was looking over to see what his body language was like, but I was on the opposite side behind the basket, so I couldn't really see. We took the lead 92-91 with Paul George at the foul line late in the fourth. And then a very controversial substitution took place. And I didn't mind it at the time because I was like, okay, I don't fully trust Russ in closing with his tendency to potentially take a shot that shouldn't be there for him or that he shouldn't be taking, or an erratic turnover. And, of course, the ball having a tendency to sometimes find non-shooters at the end of games. So I was like, you know what? I don't mind bringing Harden back in. Well, we put Harden back in with 1:55 to go in the game, down 95-98. And at first, it looked like a genius substitution. James Harden tipped the ball to himself for a corner three in the right corner in front of the Clipper bench, hit it to tie the game at 98. Crowd went berserk. And I thought maybe we were there, but the small ball lineup was tough to combat. I mean, Norman Powell, he had a very good impact. His defense was good and bad. He had bad moments, and then he had some solid moments where he stayed strong, got his chest into the defender. Into the offensive player, stayed up strong, and got some stops. But in a small ball lineup, not only is he going to be attacked, but I don't trust Norman Powell on the glass. I can't remember saying good rebound, Norm, like ever. So Bismack Biyombo went over the top of Norm, got a loose ball foul, made one free throw out of two to make it 99-98. And then if I'm not mistaken, Kawhi missed a point-blank layup. I don't want to say point-blank because it was contested, but a really good look at a layup. And again, Kawhi Leonard in the fourth quarters. Looks like he loses his legs. He missed that shot. Marcus Smart had that incredible dive on the floor pass to Roddy to put the Grizzlies up 3. And then the Clippers went for a quick 2 in which Kawhi Leonard got his routine foul line turnaround, and it was well short. So again, I think what we're seeing is one of my biggest fears with the trade was Kawhi and Paul George are going to be asked to guard better players as well after the trade. And that's what you're seeing. And Kawhi already had some kind of issues. I don't want to say issues, but I had concerns about him closing games for us because it looks like his legs just kind of go towards the end. And then maybe that was part of the reason, one of the pros of getting Westbrook was to take some playmaking duties out of Kawhi's hands and have his legs fresher for the end. And when people talk about our shot quality at the end of games, before Russ, after Russ, before Harden, now with Harden, it's the same. Because what you're going to realize is teams are going to switch everything late in games. And the truth of the Clippers is Kawhi and Paul George, especially late in games, don't blow by guys like that. Kawhi Leonard in general is not blowing by guys like that. So when you struggle to get in the paint, then you struggle to get open shots because you're not getting by anybody and drawing a secondary defender. Russ, as quick as he is, teams are going to sag off too much on him at the end of a game. Harden doesn't have the same burst. He hasn't blown by anyone so far. He's gotten the step on guys since becoming a Clipper, but he hasn't fully blown by a guy for a layup. It's not the same player. And when his shot's not falling, when that step back's not falling, and I mentioned this a couple episodes ago, you're not getting much. It was honestly a negative in this game. And so they made 2 free throws at the end, Memphis, and won the game. They won it 105-101. Before we read the lines, I want to say my solution, I think it's clear as day now in my eyes. We can't have Westbrook and Harden starting. It just can't happen. It's too redundant offensively. It takes away from each of their games. And in the process, Kawhi Leonard and Paul George aren't getting as many shots, and our defense is worse, and our rebounding is worse. So, in my opinion, after seeing this game, after seeing the lineups that worked, and just for reference, James Harden in this game was a team worst -28. He had 11 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists, and a turnover to go along with a steal and a block. He was 4 for 12 from the field, 1 for 7 from 3, and 2 for 2 from the line. It was definitely his worst game as a Clipper thus far. On the other hand, Kawhi Leonard, who played with Harden a lot, didn't have a great game either. And he was 3 for 6 in the first quarter and the third quarter, so 6 for 12 in those 2 quarters. Only shot once in the second quarter and was 0 for 3 in the fourth. 14 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists, 1 steal, 2 blocks, no turnovers, thankfully, but he was a -18. Don't think it was a very good game for Kawhi. Didn't feel like he was aggressive enough. Feels like there's stretches in the game where he's just kind of in the corner sitting around. And he played 37 minutes too, and defensively I thought he was just okay. And he should probably do a better job rebounding for what it's worth. Then you have the 2 guys that played really solid in this game and spark plugged us. Russell Westbrook, it was his birthday, so happy birthday, Russ, 35th, still moving like a 25-year-old. 12 points, 9 rebounds, by the way. 5 assists, 3 steals, 4 turnovers though. That's no good. He was a +10, 5 for 13 from the field, 1 for 4 from 3. Again, you'd like to see the threes limited, but what Russ brought, like there are a couple things he does that James Harden just doesn't do. I mean, you can name the same for Harden in the sense of pick and roll, step back threes, spot up threes, but there was one play where Russ tied up a big, I forget which big it was, forced a jump ball, and then won the jump ball. Have you ever seen Harden do that? Then there was another time late in the game where a shot went up on our side, and Russ is in the middle of 2 Grizzly bodies and gets a loose ball foul that results in a new possession for us. I've never seen Harden do that. These little things, plus the energy in the building that Russ brings, it's infectious. And the Clippers seem to be, from their body language when I watch them, ready to play with pace. You don't just do a whole training camp playing one way and trying to preach a certain style that you want to play like. You start out doing it, and then you just go completely away from it because you make a huge trade for one guy. Which doesn't make sense to me. And you know what? If I'm being real, James Harden is a better half-court set player than Russell Westbrook. Better engine of an offense in the half-court set than Russell Westbrook with lesser players. So as a floor raiser, James Harden with the second unit, with guys like Norm, maybe guys like Amir Coffey, I think that would suit him better. I think Russ has a good chemistry with 2-on-3 already. But Harden, he'll be able to do more of his thing, dribble more like he wants. And you know what? If you really look at sixth men like the Jamal Crawfords and the Lou Williams, what are their skill sets like? Not great defenders, not the guys that are going to do the little things, but they're great playmakers and scorers. And that's what Harden is. So it's almost like his OKC role. It's coming full circle. The question is, will he be willing to accept that? I don't know. And I don't see any reason why Russ should do it. I really don't, especially because we made it, told him that he was going to be the starting point guard. Paul George, 26 points, 7 rebounds, 7 assists, but he had 7 turnovers. Way too much. 8 for 16 from the field, 50%, and 3 for 7 from 3. One of the biggest reasons the Clippers also lost was free throws. They shot 15 for 23 from the line. Paul George was 7 for 9. Kawhi was 1 for 2. And Norman Powell was 2 for 6. Despite 20 points and being +8, in his 31 minutes, 7 for 13 from the field and 4 for 7 from 3, by the way, so extremely efficient for Norm. 2 for 6 on the foul line is just unacceptable for him. And then Terrence Mann, his best game of the season, which he's only played 3 of them, but 7 points, 3 boards, 3 assists, 3 for 7 from the field. Still hasn't fully gotten the 3-ball yet going, 1 for 3 from that distance, but he's a plus 13 and he helps the team. But yeah, that's my takeaway. Harden on the bench, 6th man, like OKC. But will he do it? I don't know. I know there's going to be pushback in the comments because not a lot of people like Westbrook. Or should I say he's polarizing? People feel strongly about him. We'll see. Let me know what you think. But coming up, going to be talking about why, well, the Clippers were 0-5 with Westbrook is not a very accurate comparison and should not really be being said right now. But I'm going to explain why coming up. We spend a lot of time talking together, you and I. We get fired up together on wins and losses, who starts and who sits. I'm thankful for the connection we have, being able to talk to you every single day. And today I want our chat to be a little more personal. I just learned that you can get a 1-year supply on ED medications. You realize what that means? Bring on extended travel. Bring on a next earthquake or supply chain issue. You're covered, my friend. You don't have to worry about whether or not you can refill your generics for Cialis, Viagra, or Revatio prescription. And this is possible because of our friends at Jace Medical. Go online right now at Jace, J-A-S-E, medical.com to receive your 12-month supply on your daily medication. Remember to use code LOCKEDON at checkout for a discount as well. If you or someone you love would get some peace of mind by having a year's supply of any daily med, go to jacemedical.com to see if it's offered for you. Remember to use promo code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. That's Jace Medical. All right. Let's talk about the 105-101 loss from the Clippers or the Grizzlies, which makes it 4 straight with James Harden and 5 overall. Moussa Diabate, I actually think that he is better than PJ Tucker for what we want to do. He can move his feet better on the perimeter. He can protect the rim more. He's more athletic. PJ Tucker's not really doing much in terms of floor spacing. He's sitting in the corner, but no team respects his shot. He was 1 for 2 from 3 in this game. One was really, really short. Just gets no lift on his jumper, it seems, anymore. But he hit a 3, and he was actually one of the few players in the plus category, in the plus minus. Just Westbrook, Paul George, Norm, Terrence, and PJ were in the plus of the plus minus. Clippers going 9 deep in this one. Got to give credit to Marcus Smart and Desmond Bane, by the way, for the Grizzlies. Marcus Smart had 17 points and 7 assists. And then Desmond Bane had 27 points, 4 rebounds, and 6 assists. They had 5 guys in double figures. Biyombo had a double-double, 13 and 12. So the fact that Bismack Biyombo was outplaying Ivica Zubac is just no good. The Grizzlies had 11 offensive rebounds, the Clippers 8. And they had 5 guys in double figures. The Clippers also had 5 guys in double figures, though. But it was just a couple of big rebounds and free throws made that made the difference for Memphis, who shot only 42% from the field and 32% from 3. They were shooting a lot of threes, quick threes. I did not think they were going to go in. Clippers shot 43.5% and 35% from 3, so it was one of their better three-point shooting games in a while, mainly because Norm hit a third of them. But the free throws, 18 for 24 for Memphis, 15 for 23 from the Clippers, 3 more free throws made. It was a 4-point Grizzlies win. That makes a difference. But Kawhi Leonard needs to be better closing. I still think he's getting too much on his plate defensively throughout the game because of our lack of size at the trade. Paul George, I thought, was pretty good. Just needs to turn the ball over less. Westbrook, I thought he was solid. I just don't like his fit with Harden on the floor. I thought Harden was pretty awful. But again, I'm not blaming the 0-4 strictly on Harden. I just think the Harden trade was just a terrible idea. And I've mentioned why so many times. And here is why I need to combat this point. Everybody keeps saying, well, we were 0-5 with Russ. Let's talk about that for a sec. My hesitation for getting Russell Westbrook at the time was because in 2021, it seemed like Kawhi Leonard and Paul George had put the we need a playmaking point guard thing to bed. It felt like we realized that the best source of offense was running it through our 2 best players and having shooters and defense around them. There were people that always said we needed a point guard, a true point guard. And I said, do we struggle with shot quality? That was my question. Do we struggle with shot quality? The answer more often than not was no, except for at the end of games. People kept saying you need a point guard to put them in their spots. I'm like, what spots? Like, it's not like they're coming off screens a ton of times per game or they're going to get spoon-fed at the basket. It's either they run pick and rolls or they're going to get spot-up corner shots or something. And you don't want to make them spot-up shooters, especially when Paul George on All the Smoke before the 2020-2021 season said he was being used like too much of a spot-up shooter, likening himself to Redick and Ray Allen. But then Ty Lue put the ball in his hands, and you saw good things happen. But then when Paul George said he wanted Russ, I said, okay, Paul, I thought he was just ducking responsibility. But it turns out he felt like the on-ball responsibility was too much. It would wear him out throughout the course of a game, and he wanted some easier baskets coming off screens. I think, if anything, Paul George needed Westbrook more than Kawhi did. And I saw in the first game, and the main reason why I didn't want Russ, too, is because he was not playing good basketball with the Lakers as well. He was at a low point of his career. But also, it didn't cost us anything. It was low risk. This was different. We gave up assets for this. So when I saw Russ play in that first game, by the way, against Sacramento, a huge game in the standings, and a very good Kings team who was in rhythm, the Clippers had the second highest scoring game in NBA history. Okay, the defense was a bit of a concern. Remember, we still had Marcus Morris starting. But I saw what people were saying offensively. Paul George and Kawhi immediately had over 30 points in that game. Westbrook was making our offense faster. I saw the benefits in the first game. It's been 4 games of this trade. I don't see how we got any better with it at all. And then if you want to go further, like the reason we lost that game was because Norman Powell didn't stay home and left Malik Monk open for 3. And then on top of that, we had a minutes restriction cutoff with Paul George in which he didn't play the second overtime, but then he played the last possession. It was weird. And then the next game, we had our best performance at Denver in God knows how long. I can't remember the last time we were in Denver and we were that close to beating them. And the only reason it was ruined was Ty Lue randomly put Marcus Morris in for overtime when he was having an awful game, and he was just terrible in that game. That was the peak of the Marcus Morris slander. And that was the closest we had gone to beating Denver. So I saw the improvement. I saw that Russ made our matchup against Denver better because he put pressure on Jamal Murray, and he could go to the rim and attack Jokic. And then the third game was when I was like, okay, when we lost to Minnesota at home, at Staples Center, I was like, all right, maybe this isn't going to work. But Marcus Morris, whenever he touched the ball, that was to the point where whenever he touched the ball, bad things were happening. And I was just getting mad about the fact that we took minutes away from Terrence Mann, and it felt as though we needed time to incorporate things, and we just didn't have that time. Now we have that time. But you also have to remember, Ivica Zubac missed a couple of these games, and last year Zubac was playing better. So like the 5th game, when we lost to Sacramento in Sacramento, we lost by 2 points because the ball slipped out of Russell Westbrook's hands, and Kawhi Leonard didn't even play. And then how do we break the streak? Against the jawless Memphis Grizzlies team that actually had Tyus Jones, though. So it is nothing like this. The reason why I disagree with the logic is because the Russ move I saw in game 1, not that it was going to be a good fit, but there is a positive there. I don't see anything positive here. Okay, we stagger Russell Westbrook and James Harden. Okay, now Bones is on the bench. We play slower, and it's hurting Kawhi and Paul. Well, no matter what you want to say, it's hurting them right now. They're being too passive, and part of that's on them. Part of that's Kawhi, mainly Kawhi in this one. It just feels like they can't play well together, all 4 of them, on the same day. It's going to be really hard when they're all starting. That's why I want one of them to go to the bench, and I think right now Westbrook has made a better case to start than Harden has. But that's why I don't think this is the same. And are we just going to get size back? Because Russell Westbrook, I thought he was going to make our defense worse because he wasn't playing great defense with the Lakers. But he showed that he can be better, and I think so far this season his defense has been pretty good. There was also a rotation late in the game where he got a steal. Like, Russ does these little things. He can fall asleep a bit here and there on defense, and in this game there were a couple times that he did. Same with Paul George. The thing with Harden is not only does he fall asleep, he doesn't give you many good defensive plays, and teams know he's not much to worry about on that end. So I'm taking Russ starting, personally. I know that's going to cause a lot of, difference of opinion and people disagreeing with me. But let me know what you think in the comments. Should one of them come off the bench? Who do you want coming off the bench? I do not think this is the same as the Westbrook thing. I don't. I saw better habits. I saw a team that was more put together. We had already picked up Mason. We had already picked up Bones. The only thing was Russ taking minutes away from Terrence was my concern, and having not much time to figure it out because there's only 20 games left in the season. There's plenty of time, but what are we gonna do? Just get guys that are we gonna? These guys aren't gonna grow. You know what I'm saying? Our team is smaller. We're thinner in the front court. We're asking a lot of Kawhi and Paul. Our offense starting the game is redundant. Westbrook off the ball more is a disaster, especially when he and Zoo are around the paint. That just clogs the spacing. We had a lot of moments of bad spacing in this game, and not just by non-shooters. There was a time where Terrence and Norm were just standing next to each other, crowding the lane, and I'm like, what are we doing here? So everyone seems kind of out of whack since the trade. I don't know what to say. It looks like I was spot on, but I hate that I was because this is garbage. I want the team to do better. But if it's garbage to make a move, meaning take one of them out of the starting lineup, then I'm all behind the trade, and I think it could be great. But my whole hesitation with the trade was all four of these guys want to start, and I don't believe that that's going to work. And right now, it's looking like it's not. But let me know what you think. I'll be releasing a video on my own YouTube channel on Monday so you can see what it was like in the arena. Oh, God. Clipper Nation, I need your thoughts. I need them. The age-old by the way, Locked On Clippers, free and available wherever you get your podcast. Make sure you subscribe, hit the notification bell so you know every single time we post a video. I don't mean to sound harsh. I don't mean to be all doom and gloom. I think this can get better. I just don't think it can be with this starting lineup, personally. And I've given basketball reasons for 36 minutes to prove it. The age-old proverb continues. Go Clippers. Let's see if we can get it right against Denver, but there'll be an episode before that. Have a great week, Clipper Nation, and try not to stress too much, and enjoy the other things in your life that you can control. Peace.